What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of V2 Sports. As y'all know, this last episode we celebrated our 1 year anniversary. We hope you enjoyed that episode where we all went down a trip down memory lane, and we are super excited to continue this next year, and we hope to stay in your ears and in your home. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the recap. Y'all know I don't talk much about baseball, so we're going to go ahead and hand it over to Mr. Clean. Jackson, take it away.
Let's get into the really boring Wednesday slate. I expected way more from the slate. Tennessee and Florida, none of us expected that. None of us expected Florida absolutely stunning Tennessee, not only stunning them, but basically blowing them out in basketball terms. Not like super blowout, but it was basically one. Pretty big win for Florida and a really big win for the first year head coach. What are your guys' thoughts on this game? One game out of these three because the other two are boring.
This is less to do with the fact that Florida is a great team and rather the fact that Tennessee is a very overrated team. The last two games have been some of the worst offensive showings I've ever seen in college basketball for a team who's ranked in the top five. It is incredibly embarrassing to say that this is the number two team in the country currently. I mean, first off, I don't understand why half the offense revolves around Zakai Ziegler just shooting up threes, and then the rest of the people just standing outside of the key just with their dick in their hand doing absolutely nothing but watching him miss. And then on top of that, I don't know how, I don't know what way, but for some reason Castleton dropped a near double double 29 or 20 and 9 versus you guys when you're supposed to be considered a defensive team. So you failed in both worlds. You were sucked at offense as per usual, and you didn't even provide decent defense. Truly an awful showing. The only thing I can say is good for Lofton and Castleton for having a solid game, and it was a somewhat impressive win from Florida, but it was more due to the fact that Tennessee just absolutely sucked.
Tennessee's team just doesn't have a go-to scorer. I mean, you could look at their teams back in 2018-19 with Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield, and you had a go-to guy. This team just doesn't have one, and that's going to end up costing them the tournament.
Yeah.
There's a one word to describe Tennessee. The word is mid.
Wouldn't go that far.
Mid.
No, he's not wrong, okay? When you're
They're
coming
still a
into a
ranked
series,
team.
it doesn't matter. You just lost to Florida, a team that not only us but mainstream media has been straight dicking on for the past 2 weeks because Colin
It's
Castleton is
true.
not him. Everybody's been dicking on him, and then this game happens. And I don't know for anybody that watched the game, if you did, you know exactly who I'm talking about. When I asked, some of my friends that watch Florida basketball games, they said she's like at every single game. I don't know who this woman is who's screaming at the top of her lungs,
I know
preferably
exactly
louder
who
The
than
you're
most
me.
talking about.
annoying human.
Yep.
You're
This
just
is
an
the
annoying
equivalent of
person.
the Whistler from Vanderbilt baseball.
I'm not even gonna speak on this game. I'm just gonna speak on that
The
woman.
Whistler,
I'm trying
nah.
to watch the game and I just hear, "You're too short," or "Stop shooting it," or my favorite one because this is on ESPN. ESPN's kind of like PG sort of. I all of a sudden I hear like right before a commercial break, "Quit crying, you little bitch!" And I'm like, "Oh my god!"
What amazes me is the fact that she calls people by their first name as if she knows them personally. Like that's just really odd. Like it's a pet peeve of mine, but whenever you call somebody by your first name in like any professional sport or even college, it's incredibly lame. Like you don't know these kids. You have no relation to them whatsoever, and yet you're acting like you're a sibling. Like shut the hell up and watch the game. Like
Yeah.
they do not really care of the 2 cents you have to offer, which high majority is just nonsense.
We got to remember though, this isn't Florida. This is Florida, so
That's
Yeah.
true, but as somebody who's lived in Tallahassee for a bit and also Tampa, fans know how to restrain themselves. Shockingly
Are you
enough, at
sure?
least
Have you
with
been to
this,
Gainesville?
I
Yeah,
guess not enough because
you've never been to
this has
Gainesville,
proven me
or
wrong. I have
you've also never
just
been to Jacksonville in October.
I haven't been to Jacksonville. I have been to Gainesville, but
Oh.
I guess I kind of underestimated the level of stupidity that Gainesville has to offer, which is a little ironic considering their school is fantastic.
Yeah. Honestly, I think this game was just it. It was just a mix of Tennessee just struggling. Florida was struggling for the most part, but they did enough to win. Castleton played not overrated for once. He played like how he should, and he did a good job. Him and Lofton did a great job, and I think we should go into the next game. It was absolute blowout. Georgia at Auburn. Auburn. I think any of us who watched this turn it off after the first half because I expected this to be a very good game, but Auburn just dominated. Like I didn't expect this level of domination.
Wait a minute. Wait a
I
minute.
mean,
Cutting you off real quick. Didn't you pick Georgia last week?
I don't. Did I?
You
I
beat
don't know.
Georgia in the Texas A&M game, not in the Auburn
Yeah,
game.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Texas A&M still beat them. But I was shocked that McBride played this well and the team still failed him. McBride played great for Georgia,
Yeah.
but Georgia's been on kind of a losing streak lately. They haven't been that
They
good.
have. They have.
And
And
this was a bad loss for them. And they're going down like how how LSU started off hot, and they just went down as soon as they went into SEC play. Georgia just can't find that consistency, you know.
there were two
It's a
reasons, in my
talent thing.
opinion. Or you got it.
It's a talent thing. I mean, Mike White just hasn't had enough time to bring in the type of guys to compete consistently in SEC play. So this was bound to happen eventually.
Mike White is
Yeah,
not a good coach. When he was at Florida, he'd get one good win, and then he'd lose the next three, which were all winnable games. Like last year, the Gators lost they, I think they were, I don't even know. They had a really good record, and then they lost to 0-7 Texas State. They're just Mike White's just an inconsistent coach.
Well,
For
there's
me,
also some things going on at Florida behind the scenes that
for
negatively
me,
affect their
with
basketball
this
team.
game, this had more to do with the fact of Auburn than Georgia. Georgia was kind of irrelevant. The team wouldn't really matter in this game unless you were just one of the elites. The bottom line is, in this game, main things that impressed me were, one, for the first time in a while, Auburn's guards actually learned how to shoot the basketball. It's unbelievable. KD Johnson actually scored. Flanagan actually scored. Wendell Green actually scored. All these people who were playing bad all season and averaging under 10 finally had their good games. And
No,
the
hold up,
tip
hold
and
up,
the
hold up.
no, uh,
They were not averaging 10. Like, if you're just
no,
going off of
below
what you saw
10,
on
below
Saturday,
10.
no, I mean Flanagan is averaging about 9. Wendell Green is averaging oh no, he's 13. I'm sorry, but point is, the
KD
main
is
guards
at
I was referring to,
8.2.
KD is at 8, Flanagan is at 9. These were guards that were playing bad recently, and this is the first game we finally saw a pretty solid performance. But the main thing I want to highlight, and is my second point, is Broom, you keep showing why you are the best player on that team. That you are the only reason why Auburn is even ranked right now. He is unbelievable. When he decides to actually be strong in the paint and just shoot the ball instead of being weak with it, dude's a menace. 20 and 18. 18 rebounds. That is Clint Capella level stats, dude. That is insane. This guy, when he decides to play like he can play, one of the best players in the SEC, in my opinion.
and he didn't play the last 10 minutes of the game, and he put up 20 and 18, or 19 and 18.
Essentially 20, really.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this game?
Nah, we can move on.
All right, let's get into LSU and Missouri. LSU didn't play as bad as I thought they would. I had Missouri by 10. Oh, no, not 10, 15. And LSU really impressed me. But you know who really, really impressed me? Kobe Brown, man. He's been doing this all season, and it's been amazing when he's consistent. He had 5 3-pointers. His only missed field goal was one missed 3-pointer. He almost had a double-double. 8 rebounds, 26 points. It was a great night for him, and he's a star in the Missouri scheme, and he's had a brilliant senior year.
The one good thing about Missouri is you don't see consistency when they play the really elite teams of basketball, but whenever they play a team that is worse than them, they always
They
win.
just dominate.
They
Yeah.
always win every time. There's so many teams I can say, like Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky. All these teams can play inferior competition and still lose. That's not the case with Missouri. They may not win every upset, for their schedule, but they damn sure will win every game that they're supposed to win. And this was just another one. I'm not saying LSU's a great team. I'm not even saying they're a good team. They're mid, in my opinion. I mean, they're 12-10 for God's sake, and one of the worst SEC records in the country. I mean, in the conference. But this was just another good win for them. I mean, you held, or actually, you didn't really hold them to good shooting percentage because LSU shot 40% from the field and 33% from three, which is not actually that bad. It's just they shot better. Missouri
Yeah.
shot nearly 50% from three. That's insane. I mean, I know it mainly attributed to Kobe Brown, but still, 50% from three off of 27 shots. That's pretty impressive.
It's insanely impressive. It just shows what they're building there in year one for Missouri, and
Absolutely.
when we get it, like what they're building in year one for the head coach of Missouri, I forgot his name for a second. It'll come to me
Dennis
in a minute.
Gates.
Yeah, Dennis Gates he's had a stellar year, and he's overperformed with this lesser talent Missouri squad, and I think when he gets his guys in, this could be a really good tournament team. But that's just my opinion on
1000%.
it.
They got
Uh,
a bright future, but we can move on to the
yeah,
Saturday slate.
let's move on to Ole Miss at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt did what they were supposed to. Ole Miss, man, what are you doing? Like, how do you, if there's any team that's capable of losing heartbreaker after heartbreaker, it's got to be Ole Miss, man. Have you seen their season, bro? It's like every game they lose, it's by like a close one-score game. You play out of your mind defensively, but your offense sucks. I mean, how on like how does this game happen? How do you?
The bottom line is Ole Miss is not a scoring team. They average 67 points total in the
Yeah.
game. And even though they shoot not terrible, they shoot 42.5%, they just don't score. This is
Yeah.
another game. And like I'm Vanderbilt, I used to be a little thinking like, you know what, they're a little underrated and I kind of like the way they play. The more I've realized it, they've lost more games than they should. So they're not really as like, underrated as I originally anticipated. That Arkansas game really inflated their stock, but this was just two of essentially the worst teams in the SEC battling it out, and it was close because the competition was pretty close.
Yeah.
Nothing really impressed me here. This game was kind of expected.
I don't think Liam Robbins played as good as his stats showed, but he was really decent
Like,
in this game, and
said
it was a really
Robbins?
big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
19 and 12.
yeah, no, I'm just saying like most of those were like he was 5 for 15 is what I meant, and he missed like three
Okay,
three
sure,
pointers.
sure.
I'm saying like he wasn't as good as his stat shows, but he still did enough for Vanderbilt to win. He didn't play his best game by all means, but he had a great double, and he was great defensively. I'm just saying offensively he wasn't as good as his stats show.
I will admit it's a
I
little
th-
rare to see two people in the starting lineup have a double and you only win by 3 points.
I
Exactly.
think this is fixing to
But
become Davis'
almost two people had to double for Ole Miss as well. I mean, you look at Brakefield and Burns, and they both
Yep.
played out of their mind, and they still barely lost to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's an okay team. They remind me. They're like a. I'm trying to explain what Vanderbilt is because they win some games and they just then other games you're like what just happened because they're
They're
4 and
your
6 and they
trap team. They're a team that like is not very good, and the record's going to show that.
like
But you don't want to just like write them off. Like you have to
yeah.
still compete
Like
because they very well could
In the
win.
SEC tournament, they could be a really scary team for some random team. You know how Texas A&M was a shocker team
Yeah.
last year that nobody expected. You could see Vanderbilt be that team if they
I
can
wouldn't
be
say for the
consistent.
full tournament, but I would say for at least a couple games.
Yeah, I
Like,
know. That's what I meant. If they could
yeah,
be consistent, they could be scary in the SEC tournament. That's what I mean.
100%.
Yeah,
This
but
fixing to be Kermit Davis's last season, in my opinion. He's fixing to be out the door, and Ole Miss fixing to be looking for a new head coach in basketball. The
yeah.
team he's better fit for a mid-major team, like where he was at MTSU and going to the tournament with a mid-major team every year.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not special. You could be a good coach in one league versus a terrible in another.
Let's get into the next game because I don't think there's any other thoughts on the
Could
actual
I actually
game.
start this game off, Jackson? I
Yes.
apologize. So, I'm going to be honest. Auburn, Tennessee. This may have been the worst showing of basketball I've ever witnessed this year.
Hell yeah, bro.
I'm not
That's
just
bad.
talking about for the SEC. I'm talking about for the literal NCAA. I've never seen a more pitiful offensive performance than the set of these two teams.
3-pointers combined.
So just to give you perspective, Auburn shot 11% from 3. Tennessee shot 9. 3 for 27 and 2 for 21. I mean, if this didn't say these are overrated teams, I don't know what does. Because this was some of the worst offense. I literally couldn't watch this game without cringing and getting offended as a basketball player, watching every possession of just jacked up threes. This was just an awful, awful, awful game. Both, like, in my opinion, this is one of the few games where I'd say neither of the teams deserve to win. This just should have been written off. There should have been no win or loss. The game should have been just scrapped from the schedule because like every single player on both teams just shot so terrible. And, like I was so happy when I saw that Auburn game beforehand against Georgia. I'm like, wow, the guards did so well. Good job. And I realized they put all their talent into that one game because then they played absolutely terrible. Wendell Green, you were awful. Flanagan, you were awful. Jasper, I know you have defense, but god damn it, you were awful. Kenny Johnson, why the hell do you have a job? You suck. Last time you were good was in like the tournament, and you even got dropped in the round of 32. You guys are just a poverty team. And as for Tennessee, Jesus, Ziegler, 0 for 10. You didn't make one shot, you lazy sack of shit. How in the hell could you not
Offense is
score?
around
You
him,
were so
and he
bad.
didn't score.
You couldn't even score. I mean, this is
For
a
7,
catastrophe.
bro.
And whoever that center is, by the way, for Tennessee, hang up your jersey, go work at a McDonald's or something, start building burgers, because the only thing you're building is houses with all the bricks you be throwing. Absolutely garbage
Wait a minute.
player.
The white center or the light skin?
The white center.
Yeah. All right. The question I got to ask everybody here before we let Jackson put in his essay without breathing. The last shot, was it a foul?
1000%.
That is
Yes,
100% a foul.
yes,
You do not go chest to chest.
That was a foul.
He got into shooting space.
So
Only
Yeah.
thing is, the only thing I
Wendell
can say
Green-
though is,
Wendell
I don't really
Green
care
literally wrapped
that it was
his
a
legs
foul.
around him.
To be fair though,
I
I
mean,
don't really care that was a foul because A, you still would have had to make all 3 free throws, and I'm just saying, with how Wendell Green was playing, I'm not
He wasn't
100%
gonna make it.
confident he would
Yep.
have hit them. He
He
was
wasn't
already
gonna make
3
it.
for 5. So with the pressure on the line, there's a very good chance he misses at least one of them. So
Yeah.
I don't even really care.
Mhm.
we were talking about how pitiful this game was. I'm gonna just read the field goals for like each starter on each team.
Sure.
5 for 13, 1 for 10, 2 for 10.
We gotta
3
get
for
names- We
11.
gotta get names for each stat, for each stat line.
Oh, you want names? All right. So Auburn starters, we'll start with them first. So we got Janai Broom, 5 for 13. Jalen Williams, 1 for 10. Wendell Green, 2 for 10. Flanagan, 3 for 10. Jasper went 0 for 1. I mean, he doesn't do anything on offense, but Julian Phillips, 1 for 3. I don't even know how to say that dude's name. Nakahoma, 4 for 16. Ziegler, 0 for 10. Vescovy, 2 for 7. And JJJ was 5 for 12.
God damn.
JJJ had 14 rebounds. He had a double-double. I didn't even notice that.
It's hard.
He still played awful.
It's very hard to notice a double when your team,
When
the
your team
home
played that bad.
fan, like the fans, everybody's just selling. Because if you watch
Hey,
during the game,
guys,
you had
you wanna
Tennessee
hear
players turning around to the old ass people behind them, asking them to make noise, and
Guys.
you're just looking at the players like, no, you're
You want to hear the
ass.
funniest thing? No, you want to hear the funniest thing about all of this, about the shooting percentage? When you combine the missed 3-pointers, or the total 3-pointer shot and the missed for Tennessee and Auburn, the missed total, it exceeds the amount of points both teams scored. Neither team scored as
wasn't it-
many as the total 3-pointers attempted and missed.
Wasn't it 5 for 48?
God,
Just
I'm pretty sure it was 5 for 48.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
like,
That like hang up, like, just leave the conference. Take a year to reevaluate what you have talent-wise. Maybe beg for Jabari Smith to become re-eligible so you can have him for one more year instead of him playing on that miserable Rocket squad. It is Tennessee, maybe just don't play basketball, like, in general. Maybe just take the rest of the season off to go to Cancun and watch the rest of the teams in the
Cancun
tournament
three.
because we know damn for sure you guys aren't doing anything. The only boards you're going to be the only things you're going to be fighting for is the floaties down at the lazy river because clearly you don't fight for boards um I mean I don't know what to say. I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm
my
sorry.
my last take about this game is it's rare to see two teams even score lower than 40 points, especially two top 25 teams, and this will probably never happen again this season. But these teams are both awful
Yeah.
and overrated, and I'm done. I'm not even going to talk about this game because of how bad it was. I, I'm not
So
even going to talk
if
much
you
about it.
if you
So,
want to
if you
combine the two teams like field goal like numbers, so Auburn was 13 of 55 for the
yeah.
entire game. Tennessee was 17 of 63. So you combine that, that's 30 of 118.
You know, imagine this, okay? Imagine not watching the Tennessee Florida game, and you and your buddies are like, all right, listen, this weekend's going to be high octane offense. Let's take a shot for every time they miss. Dude, you're blacked out by like the end of the first quarter. Plain
You're
and simple.
dead. You're dead. Not even blacked out. You're dead.
You're
By the way,
just
Alcohol
you at
Auburn
home.
was
You're
poisoning.
looking
three
at
of
each other like, oh.
27.
Die of
Yeah.
alcohol poisoning.
Auburn was
I,
3 of 27 from 3 point range.
I
Oh.
just
hey,
Can't be. Hey,
the
Tennessee was
thoughts.
also 2 of 21. You
let's
You
just
get
move on. We just need to move
Hey,
on,
hey,
please.
yeah. Let's move on from this garbage game. Now let's get into Arkansas and South Carolina. None of us thought this game would be close at all.
And none of
Josh
us
Gray,
thought
man,
it was going to be good,
where
and
were
it
you?
wasn't.
Oh, yeah. Josh
I
Gray, where were you all season for the Gamecocks? You had a double double. You played better than anybody on that team, man. You gave it your all, and they still lost.
I would
And
like to take
dude,
a
let me
quick
tell you
pause,
something.
Jackson. Quick pause. If you're listening on Spotify, I beg of you to come over to the YouTube because Jackson is literally looking at the notes on his phone and reading this shit like it's a teleprompter, and it's amazing because I feel like he's had this wrote up since the game. Like he said, you know what? We record Sunday night. I am literally gonna tear this man a new one, just right here on this podcast.
Dude, there was there's nothing more pissed than not giving Gigi Jackson the ball in the last 2 minutes for South Carolina. Gigi Jackson's your best player, probably. Not even that. You didn't even have Chico Carter on the field, who's the best 3-point percentage shooter. You needed a 3-point to win the game, even 3-point plus a foul. I would have had one of those to take the shot. Josh Gray was your best player in the game, but you do not want a center taking that shot at all times. Like,
the
I
only
don't even know.
the only thing I feel bad for in this game is Arkansas because injuries. Like,
Yeah, Arkansas.
even though I do
Arkansas
think that the
played
team is a
awful.
tad overrated, like when your best player and like Nick Smith isn't even playing, and like you just have so many people out for these games, like I can't 100% just blame you because you're not having all your
Yeah, they're your
pieces.
offense. You don't have
Like
a
like although again, like I said, Arkansas is a bit overrated because they still haven't fixed just the overall chemistry of the lineup in terms of being able to work with each other because they've never really had a full lineup. They've never like had just everybody that they needed to. So I'm not gonna
yeah.
say like I'm done with the Arkansas hype, but I will say if the injuries continue, then I am.
Yeah,
So like they need players
Jalen
back
Graham.
bad.
Jalen Graham really impressed me. He really stepped up for this Arkansas team with the injuries, everything, and he hasn't had a great season. He's averaging 5 points per game, but he's been playing. He's been playing great this game. He played great this game, and Arkansas played. They deserve this win. They went back to back with South Carolina. South Carolina had a chance to win the game, but Arkansas won this fair and square. And there's
Say this
nothing.
though. Oh wait, sorry,
Hey,
Jackson. I was gonna say, if this help makes you feel any better, since you like covering this team, Josh Gray had himself a night.
hey, he looked like
20
the
and
center of the
14,
future for the Gamecocks.
played
And
great.
yeah,
No
he did.
fouls. 20 and 14. high field goal percentage, and this was for a guy who was averaging like 4 and 5. So
Yeah,
I'm really
he's
impressed.
been making big dunks all season for the Gamecocks. He just really hasn't stepped up till that game, and I think that's one of my like breakout players for next season. But that's just my opinion. But I think Arkansas really impressed me on how they managed to fight back from South Carolina. South Carolina had like a 10-2 run, coming back, taking the lead. How they managed to fight back and take the lead and even win the game. A South Carolina that looked like they were turning the tides in the last few minutes. That really impressed me, especially with an injured team. That really impressed me.
Hmm.
So, if there's not any other thoughts on this game, let's get into the game that should have been a blowout. Alabama at LSU. I thought LSU was going to get killed by 30. I said 30 bomb. They got beat by 10. Alabama, low key, has kind of looked overrated lately, but Brandon Miller's played awful lately. Defensively, he's always been great. But like offensively, he's just been abysmal, man. Like it's such a pain to watch this man shoot. Like he's supposed to be a first round prospect, and I'm watching this man, and I'm like, gosh.
Been saying this for weeks, but like
Like,
when Alabama isn't shooting like great, they're automatically very beatable.
When Alabama
And
isn't shooting civilians.
yeah, good point. Good point.
hey,
But the only thing I'm really
yeah.
surprised about is one player who I know from a previous team on LSU outscored the rest of the starters on his lineup, and that was Derek Founin.
No.
And without him, LSU does get crushed. It's just strictly the fact that he scored, and
been
as well as
amazing.
Hayes. Hayes did well off the bench, but bottom line is he was the main contributor on offense. As for Bama, I mean, yeah, overrated chance get him out because unless they go on like a shooting streak once they hit tournament time, this is a very overrated team. There's so
Hey,
many times where they should have lost. This was not one of those games, but I am saying like
yeah,
I have not been impressed over this
yeah.
last like
The
month.
freshman Noah Clowney, he's really been the glue keeping together because if he's not in this game, they fall apart. If
His
he's not
draft
in,
stock's been going up.
yeah, if he's not in like Alabama this entire season, they're not a top 25 team, and I'll stand by that. He's
Also
been
one of the
such a
only
consistent shooter, such a
yeah.
consistent defensive player. I mean, there's really nobody better on this team. You could argue Brandon Miller is a better prospect, but the better team player is Noah Clowney,
He's
in
the
my
only guy
opinion.
who actually shot decent on that starting lineup. The rest of them shot under 50%. Oh wait, no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, their center shot 4 for 5. The
Mhm.
only reason why I'm not really counting that is he took 5 shots. He's a
Yeah.
center, so
Yeah.
it should be
Th-
good.
This was a decently boring game, but it was at LSU. LSU has a little bit tough of a SEC crowd. It's not too tough. It's not at all. But I mean,
Not this year.
it's still a pretty big crowd. So I don't. Does anybody have any other thoughts on this game?
Siobhan clearly needs to get back in the groove. He needs to get off of fighting people on Twitter and get in the gym.
Yeah, completely agree.
Hey,
Let's get into the Missouri at Mississippi State game. Which, hey man, Mississippi State shocked me on this one. I thought, wait, I don't even know who I picked to win, but this was a really good game.
Yeah.
For the most part, I was kind of shocked that Mississippi State won. Taylor Smith played really consistent for them. He almost had 30 points. I was watching this game and I was like, man, Kobe Brown, you've been playing so great all year, and this
Jackson,
is
it's
the
okay
one
to
game.
breathe.
Yeah,
It's
this
okay
is
to
the
breathe,
one
man.
game. This is the one game. Kobe just like, man, God. He's one of my favorite SEC players if you haven't like already noticed. So
Mississippi State's been improving, but I do
th-
think this game is a little odd because first off, State shot 3 for 20 from the 3 and yet they won by 11 points. That doesn't add up. You don't shoot 15% from 3 and win by double digits. And that goes to show that one, Chris Jens is one of the most underrated college coaches basketball, and two, the emergence of Tolu Smith and that Bulldog defense is incredible
hey,
because they're one of the best
yeah,
they're one of
completely
the
agree.
best defensive teams in the SEC. If they literally just had a solid offense, if they could just shoot decent, they're ranked 100 like, and some of it just comes to the
Sure.
fact that a lot of the players who were shooting really well in the past are not now. Like for example, a lot of their a lot of people like to say in the past that DJ Jeffries was a 3-point specialist, and he was. Because in his first season at Memphis, before he transferred, he was shooting 39% from three. That's great. And then through each year, it went from 35 to 29, and now it's at 24. And in this game, he shot 1 for 6 from three. So point is, there are just a lot of players on State that should be shooting way better than they are. Like Shaquille Moore, last year he shot 31%. He's shooting 27% this year. There's just a ton of players. Their one problem is shooting.
They have a
Every
lot of
player on
potential
Mississippi
if they
State,
can be consistent.
100%, just no
Oh,
shooting.
Low key, they've been on a kind of streak lately. They kept it close with Alabama, which that shocked all of us. They kept it close with Florida. Then after that, they go on a 3-win streak. They beat TCU. They beat South Carolina at South Carolina. Then they beat at Miss. Then they beat. Oh, I was about to say they beat Missouri away, but it was at home. They beat a very good Missouri team by 10, and they play LSU. So
They have a very winnable schedule going forward because they don't really play anybody crazy. I mean, they
they
got LSU, Arkansas, Kentucky at home,
they could
Ole
be a
Miss,
real
Missouri,
sleeper.
Texas
The
A&M,
SEC.
South Carolina. Like they can win most of these games. Like
Completely agree.
they are not out yet. If they can fix at least even a little bit of their 3-point percentage, do not sleep on that team.
Completely agree. Any other thoughts on this game? Oh no, that kind of shocks me. I'm trying to look up the next game because I didn't watch it. So it's Georgia at Texas A&M. I didn't watch it because I picked
That was
Georgia,
the
and
marquee matchup.
I just turned
That
off.
was the
Yeah, we're
marquee
not
Yeah, I
matchup.
scrum at
know.
that yet.
I know. I turned it off after the first half, and
Okay, hey,
I know.
we're covering
We
Florida
start
and
on
Kentucky, and then we'll go to Georgia and Texas A&M. Come on,
Oh, my bad, my bad. I'm slow.
okay.
we know.
So with this
Well,
game, like the main thing I need to point out is over the last 5 games, Castleton has finally started to actually play decent.
he's been
He's had
heating up.
13, 18, 13, 20, and 25. He is starting to actually play like a solid basketball player,
Oh my
almost like how he
gosh.
should have been playing all season. Crazy. The only thing is, Florida's bench, as well as half of their starters, are not worth anything. You could put me on that team and they'd still do the same because I wouldn't shoot anything, but at least that would be less bricks for the team. And as for Kentucky, they shot well. That's really all I can say. They shot 45% from three. They shot decent. 3 of their players were in double digits. I specifically like to point out Wallace because he shot 7 for 10. He had the most points in that game.
Yeah,
And this was just this wasn't impressive by Kentucky considering what their standards are and what they should be doing. But at the same time, SEC win is an SEC win, and Florida has started to become a little more like impressive in terms of a win. So like when you beat Florida, it's not as bad as it used to be,
yeah,
but not a bad win.
yeah. Yeah, Toppin played amazing. Wallace played amazing. Frederick played really good. I think he's been one of the most underrated SEC players this year. I mean, look how much he's averaging 7.7. He was a bench player, but he's grown into that starter for Kentucky. He's been really clutch on the three. They're really good, and I really enjoy what he's been doing this season. He's shooting in the down year for 3-point percentage, but he's still been pretty all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Kentucky impressed me with their shooting this game. They've been really decent, honestly, this season. They started off slow, but had really picked it up the pace lately. And Florida, man, this game, God, bro, I have no words. Castleton is your only player. Richard and Lofton, yeah, they played good. Lofton played amazing on the 3-point. He didn't miss a single shot on the 3-point. Lofton played amazing, but besides Lofton and Castleton, your team has nothing. Just imagine what happens when I'm pretty sure they both leave next year. Imagine,
Their
God.
problem is whenever the bench comes in and they have to actually start putting in those substitutes, that team just completely falls apart.
Yeah,
Without their core guys playing like 40 minutes a game, they screw themselves because they have no depth.
yeah, I've never seen somebody as bad as Alex Forge, bro. That man is so awful. Every time he comes in, I feel like something bad's about to happen. Same for Jason. Like Gito Bo, I think that's his name. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Every time I see this man come in, I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
it's so horrible. He's such a horrible sinner. And I have no idea why. I have no idea why the bench is so horrible. So, without further ado, let's get into the marquee matchup. I'm sorry, because it was such a blowout. I expected Georgia to win this
Two
game.
sentences a take on everybody for this one. Just 2 sentences because Mister, tell me how I'm supposed to breathe with no airhead ass is just over here going crazy. So everybody, give me 2 sentences on this one so we can roll out to the sign off.
Georgia, what happened? Yeah, okay, I'm done.
All right, I'm glad he used his 2 sentences. Somebody next.
Okay, sure. Here's my 2 sentences. I thought Georgia would win, but clearly not, because Georgia got absolutely cocked.
It was a murder, man.
Georgia, I thought they would put up more of a fight in this game, and A&M is probably the most underrated team in the conference.
Terry
A&M is
Roberts had a concussion and did not play, and it caused Georgia not to be able to score the basketball. So Texas A&M blew them out.
I mean,
Even
hell,
if that's
Georgia
the
hasn't been
case,
able
you
to
still
score all
put
year.
up under 60 points. Even with him in, there's an unlikely chance they win.
I just said that's why they blew them out.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I
So
think
sure.
A&M
Fair
is
enough.
A&M is possibly a tournament team.
They are a tournament team.
They are a tournament team. They're one of the last four in right now.
I mean, look at the recent schedule. They beat Georgia. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Auburn. They beat Florida, South Carolina, Missouri, LSU. They're winning some good games. I mean, this is not a team to sleep on. Their record just looks bad because in the early season non-conference they kind of underperformed.
All right, does that do it for everybody? Y'all ready for the sign off?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, without further ado, we'd like to thank y'all for joining us for this episode of the On the Court Recap. Sorry for the background noise y'all are hearing from me. Just definitely didn't spill my drink while Luke was speaking. Gotta wipe off the desk. But as always, please remember to use code V2Sports whenever you're purchasing something from Dubby and or SeatGeek. But please remember that if you are purchasing from SeatGeek to make a new account, that means new email address. Hell, new name. It's not identity theft if the other person does not know. And I've been telling y'all some sayings, every episode, so I guess I'll go ahead and do that now. Well, hell, nah, I'll let it slide. I got some family coming in for this next episode, so yeah, good morning, good afternoon, and good night from the V2 crew. See ya.